Hey everyone, Ryan here, or M&R Productions, with my review of what I think is a pretty special 18 plus set here. It's the Imperial Probe Droid, releasing for April 2021. It's part of the 18 and up lineup for LEGO Star Wars, although you certainly don't have to be 18 to buy it or build it. It's just kind of the marketing material behind it. It's given set number 75306 with 683 pieces, and in the United States, this one's going to retail for $60 US. This is kind of part of the subline of LEGO Star Wars sets that are buildable characters. So we've had Dio, BB-8, R2-D2, with another R2-D2 remake actually happening very, very soon. And it comes with a UCS style display plaque, and it comes basically on a little stand. In this case, it's kind of a snowy built stand, which I think is incredibly unique and fun. We'll get into that. But yeah, this is definitely part of that subline, and it's fun to see it continuing here in 2021 and hopefully beyond into 2022. So we'll see what happens next year perhaps. But on the top, we have Imperial Probe Droid in a different language. We've got an actual size brick there. On the left side of the box, we've got a different angle of the Probe Droid, which looks like a pretty cool angle, to be honest. And then on the other side, it's just a bunch of boring text. Who cares? Finally, the back of the box is going to have the dimensions for the Probe Droid, in case you need to know if you can fit it in your display or whatnot. You have a different angle of the Probe Droid with a slight blue backlight, and then you have some real Probe Droid images from Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Part of me feels like this set would have been much more well-suited to have released last year with the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, but LEGO went and released the Dio buildable character basically in place of what could have been this last year. It's kind of interesting to see the branding change for the buildable character year over year finally. Last year, even though the buildable Dio did release alongside the helmet sets that were released, it did not receive the 18 plus rating, while this one, being pretty much the same vein of set, did. So I think LEGO's going full in really on this 18 plus line here in 2021 finally. So no more half measures. It's finally happening. 18 plus is definitely here to stay. I definitely think this is one of the weirder ones, though, as far as the box art goes. It just doesn't really fill the space very well. Like, the helmet sets are pretty even on there. This one's just got a lot of empty space, and the thing looks kind of small in the box, so it's kind of an interesting way to have it on there, in my opinion. But it's still a pretty cool set, and I think a lot of people are going to end up liking this one because it's a larger Probe Droid. So is it worth the $60? Let's find out. Because this is an 18 plus set, it's got a bit of a fancier instruction manual, so we'll start with the instruction manual. On the inside cover, you'll notice some information about the Imperial Probe Droid, where they talk about the Probe Droid and about just droids in Star Wars in general. And there's actually some pretty cool behind-the-scenes Empire Strikes Back images there of them creating scenes with the Probe Droid, which is a really nice inclusion. Something cool to look at to prep you for the build, but otherwise, it's just a regular LEGO set build, and I love the back cover. Let's get into the set. Now, the physical Probe Droid as a display piece, I don't think is as good as I was expecting. The set also doesn't include any minifigures, and you may on its face question why I say that, because it doesn't seem like it needs minifigures. It's a Probe Droid. However, LEGO has a history with these types of sets. You see, basically since 2012 with the buildable R2-D2, they've created a subline of characters that most people, including myself, called buildable characters. This line was kind of resurrected a few years later when The Force Awakens came out and they released BB-8. With this buildable character, it included the minifigure version of BB-8, the Porg, Baby Yoda, regular Yoda, and others included in the list also included the minifigure form of their character with the buildable version of their character. So it stands to reason that with this buildable Probe Droid, you would get a Probe Droid minifigure, or what LEGO would consider the minifigure version of. Here I have the 2007 version of a Probe Droid figure, essentially, and you just don't see one included in the set. I find that lack of consistency annoying and unfortunate. I think that there is a decent reason to not include this because it's basically another buildable character and it's not an actual minifigure, but for the sake of consistency, I don't see why you wouldn't include something like this to put off to the side right there. Like, it's got a nice spot for it, but they just didn't do that. Figure exclusion aside, the stand for displaying the Probe Droid is actually rather nice. It's probably better than any of the other buildable characters we've had in years past because it has a lot of snow. We'll get to that in a second, but the actual plaque, the UCS style display here, does say that it's a Viper Probe Droid with the manufacturer, affiliation, primary function, height, and equipment. And it's got a lot of equipment, and if you look at the character, that makes a lot of sense. Also, it's not going to be in scale with the other buildable characters because that's not the point of the buildable characters, believe it or not. The stand itself does look really good, though. It looks like a nice bit of Hoth's landscape, and I really appreciate that part of it. However, there is a problem with the way this is built, and it's not like the designer's fault. It's just the way that Lego works, and it's unfortunate, but essentially you can see that the left side of this is not flush with the ground because it like bends into the build. So you can see it actually has a bit of wobble there, which is not what you want when this side is flat and then this side can be pulled up this far. That's just far from ideal. So I don't think there's really a solution for that, but that is just a problem that this build has that exists, and you can like it or not like it, I guess, as it stands, because it's not something you can really fix unless you basically bulked this down a lot. I also failed to mention that the plaque has snow draped on it, which is a great touch. I don't think they've ever put anything on a UCS plaque before, so that's a great thing that really adds a nice bit of life to the stand there. Really helps it mesh into the landscape. Anyway, let's talk about the Probe Droid that we're all here to look at. It does look good. It looks like a Probe Droid. Now, the biggest question I had about it when it first got revealed was, why is it in dark gray? Because if you look in the movie, you know, you can questionably say it's black in that picture, but gunmetal dark gray in that picture. You can definitely tell it like there's a darker black for one of these sensors there. So it does make sense to make it gray. However, as far as Lego is concerned, they have been making Probe Droid figures like this for, I don't know, I want to say about 15 years. I want to say 2007 was probably the first time we saw one of these. This was probably the first one. And every single one of them ever has been black. So my only question to like the designers and whatnot, why now? Right? Obviously, I guess the answer of why now is this is a big one. It's 18 plus. They wanted to do it good and right. But why didn't they do it good and right for the last 15 years with all the little caricatures? It's one of those things. It's one of those things. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, of course, you may have noticed the stand coming out of the little snow mound here anyway. You can actually pick the Probe Droid up out of that stand. It doesn't actually connect in there, so that's kind of interesting. It's just a plate down there at the bottom. But yeah, I found that weird. I don't really like the way it feels when it can like wobble around sometimes, but it is nice if you have to move the stand. It's easier to take the Probe Droid out and then move them separately versus, I think the rationale there is if you had the Probe Droid in here, it was just breaking too much or something. So that seems to make a lot of sense. It just is a little bit of a weird, unexpected thing. I certainly wasn't ready for that, but it does have a lot of movable arms, and the arms aren't like the strongest thing ever, but I don't think they're particularly too weak. Like, it's obviously not something you're going to be touching and grabbing a whole lot anyway. It does have a lot of really, like, you have like a drill here on this end. You have quite a few ones that are basically hands here. And here's your problem. You have certain connectors that aren't the strongest. Like this little candle piece essentially goes into here, and if you pull on this wrong, it's going to come out, and it really does suck in that way. Now, most of the other joints where like you can twist it about are fine, but you know, if you're not careful with it, you are going to break this quite a bit. You can find it to be rather frustrating. So you have to be careful with the way that you're rotating everything when you rotate it. Now, like I said, this isn't a playset. It's not supposed to be moved around all of the time, so that obviously isn't like the end of the world. Like if a kid was playing with this, they wouldn't have a great time. It's gonna break. Don't give this to a kid is what I'm saying. Like you're not gonna have a good time with that. I like this piston piece here. It actually works as you can fold out the arm and fold it back in. Then you have the little claw on the end there. Same concept with these last two here, just claws on the end of arms. And it works as intended most of the time. Some of this stuff doesn't bend, like this here doesn't bend. This doesn't bend at its joint. They can just turn. So you've got your 6 arms on the Probe Droid, and they all work well enough. They look good for display, and don't touch them to play with them. You're not going to have a good time doing that. Moving up to the head of the Probe Droid, you can see they use some bricks that they angle down, actually, to get the circular and angled down version of the Probe Droid body, essentially. You have a couple of stickers here that add a bit of detail. I don't find them to be, like, the most important things. You can leave the stickers off if you want, but they are there, and they do add a small bit of detail. The next layer up, essentially, is just tiled off with, I think that's, like, one of the guns that the Probe Droid has, and it looks nice. It looks like it's functional, right? And overall, that layer is pretty solid. It's actually very well rounded compared to this layer below, which has a lot of gaps, but it's one of those things with Lego models that you can't really avoid. And then the top layer is kind of where all like the sensors and everything are for the Probe Droid, and even the antenna on top. It's pretty crazy. You can also turn the head independently of the body, which is ideal, basically, because that's what the Probe Droid can do. But yeah, a lot of sensors on here. It's really jam-packed with detail from the Probe Droid. I'm kind of surprised they were able to do so much with so little space up here. So it does look really cool. It's actually a pretty fun build when you get to this part because there's a lot of small pieces that you fit in places that you wouldn't expect to fit. And there's a couple more stickers and a little bit more detail on the very top of the Probe Droid, but otherwise it doesn't really do anything else. The stand can be a little bit malleable to wobble it one way or the other, or turn it one way or the other, so you just gotta be a little careful with that. It's kind of built like Yoda's lightsaber, actually, now that I think about it. That is literally exactly how it's built. I think $60 is fair for this. I love seeing these 18 plus sets that are basically UCS sets at this price now. It's a really cool thing. LEGO Star Wars has come a long way in this regard, and it's really awesome to see them finally do the Probe Droid justice, do it in the right color. I know for years and years and years they got it wrong, and I questioned why they didn't fix it until now, but hey, if there was ever a time to make it right, I guess having an adult collector display piece would be the time to make it right. So seeing this full-size Probe Droid is really awesome. This is probably the biggest Probe Droid LEGO will ever make. I don't expect them to ever make like a $200 style UCS one. Like this is UCS as far as I'm concerned, but it's not UCS in the way that like R2-D2 and some other sets are, but it's really cool. I think for 60 bucks, you can't go wrong if you're into Probe Droids or you really want it to go with your Hoth display. I think it's really good. I think for like fringe collectors or fans of this type of thing, it's definitely passable. It's not the end of the world if you don't own this one. It's not the crazy, coolest, sleekest looking thing you'll ever see because that's just not what a Probe Droid is. It doesn't quite match up to like a Venator or a Slave One or a Y-Wing in my opinion, but it's still unique and fun in its own way as far as the buildable characters go, and it's a very good addition to the buildable character lineup, even though it breaks the tradition of including the minifigure version of the buildable character. Overall, a pretty fun set, probably an 8 out of 10 for me. Definitely not a playset, so don't buy this as a gift for little kids. It really is an adult collector's piece, which is great to see, and I can't wait to see more of from LEGO Star Wars in the coming years. So let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, a like would be greatly appreciated, and you can check out more LEGO Star Wars 2021 set reviews with the end screen now.